Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my action set for Photoshop. Let's take a look at how these work. First, we're going to look at installing them. What you need to do first is have your Actions panel open. What you do is you go to Window, and then Actions right here. Make sure that's visible somewhere. Once you have that Actions panel open, you may have some actions that are already preloaded from Photoshop, and that's fine. You don't have to get rid of those, you can leave them there. But what I like to do is save those actions. And what I would do is if I had those actions here, I would just come over here and I would come to Save Actions right down here, Save Actions. I would save those actions and keep them there for, later use if I want. And the reason I like to only have my actions loaded is because I use them in button mode. And I'll show you what that looks like. So to load the actions after you've downloaded the file, you're going to look for that ATN file that you downloaded from my Gumroad page. You come over here, and you're going to say Load Actions. And wherever you've sent them, okay, you're going to find the ATN files. Here are a few that I've been working on. kyleactions2022.atn. That's the file you want right there. And you go ahead and say Open. And it's going to drop a folder into your actions right here. And you can expand that folder, and you'll see here all of the actions that are included. But what I like to do is use button mode, as I mentioned a moment ago. To do that, tap on this little menu here and select Button Mode. And there you go. Now you've got some buttons. Now you can change the size of this, make it look like whatever you want. If it's a single row, it might be too long, and you may have to scroll to get through it. So sometimes I like to just pop them up next to each other like this. Up to you, however you want to have it look, okay? But once you have the actions open, you're all set to go. And it's really simple. You just tap on a button to make something happen. So I'll isolate my hero here for a moment on this layer. If I want to flip everything horizontally, I just tap Flip Horizontal, and I can tap it back, Flip Vertical. There we go. Center the layer to the canvas. It's going to center that content right there. And then if I wanted to center a selection, I could simply make a selection like the sword and the hand right here, and I'd say Center Selection to Canvas. That's going to pop that in the center. All right. Let's see what else you can do. Well, you can rotate 15 degrees in any direction, okay, and rotate back. This gives you a full range that you need. Rotate 90 to go really fast, and the other way around as well. Drop the opacity to 20, 50, or 100% with just a single tap. And then we have some other cool options here to increase the line weight or decrease the line weight. If I decrease the line weight, it makes a copy right here called Thin Line. See that? I can hide my original, and I can see how that looks. So now my lines are a little bit thinner. All right, if I don't like that, I can always delete that layer, come back to my original. Can also thicken it by doing increase line weight right here. Make that line weight thicker. Remember, it always creates a copy for you, so everything's non-destructive, all right? You can get rid of that as well. Now let's get to some of the really interesting stuff here that you can do, such as creating a color flats mode, all right? If I want to do that, I tap on Color Flats mode right here. And right off the bat, it's going to create a layer underneath my line art. Now, if I hide my line art, what you're going to see is this new layer, which is aliased. Okay, so no anti-aliasing. And if I use my paint bucket tool right here, all I have to do is make sure that my tolerance level is low. 5 is a good number. And that contiguous is turned on, and anti-alias is turned off. And just like that, I'm ready to go. Now, before I start, I'd like to create a palette for myself to play with. So I'm going to select a color here. I like this sort of greenish yellow color right here. All right. And you have a whole bunch of palettes you can choose from. I'm just going to do Kyle Palette right here. And that's going to generate a palette on a separate layer, and I can put that wherever I like. And once I've got that palette, I go to my flats right here, where it says flats go here. And with my paint bucket tool, I just select a color and I tap to fill, like so, and just tap away. Now you may be thinking, well, this isn't that special because what happens if you bring the line art back? Well, don't worry. If you bring the line art back, you'll notice that it is trapped behind that line. So there are no gray or white pixels that are going to cause you any problems right there. And you can continue to fill this way with the line art on or off, up to you. All right, so we'll just grab another color here, and we'll continue tapping to fill. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue tapping to fill and fill out all the colors for this, and then I'll skip ahead and I'll show you in the process so you can see how this works. All right. All right, so I've tapped and filled in all the colors I like, and you'll see that they're trapped nicely here. But what's neat is you can go one step further if you really want to make these super tight for the trapping. What you do is you tap on the Flats Go Here layer right here. I'm going to hide the hero so you can see this happening. Tap on Flats Go Here, and then tap right here one time on Color Fill Expand. Now, once you've done that, go ahead and tap it one more time, Color Fill Expand. And check it out. It's pushed all of your colors together so that there is no space anymore between any of them. So now we'll turn our hero on again. And if I zoom in on an area here and just turn it on and off, you'll see how the colors are trapped underneath. Very nice. Alrighty. And then if I want to start making some changes to some of the colors, I could, for example, grab this color here and then change this color for the tunic here. Okay, if I do this and then I hide that hero, you'll see that everything is filled entirely in that color wherever that color used to be. And I've still got my original flats layer right here. Everything, again, like I said, is non-destructive. Okay, and now that I've also got that tighter trapping, if I want to experiment with the line weight, I could take this hero and I could go ahead and decrease the line weight, and we can take a look at that. Now, in theory, what should happen is my color trap should be pretty good throughout the illustration, as you can see while I scroll around here. There might be a couple of spots here and there. I'm not finding any. So it looks like there are no real gaps to be concerned about there. But it's nice to be able to do that after the fact and experiment with something like that as well. Bring back that original line art. Okay, so I'm going to hide my palette for a moment right here. And we have a couple of other layers here. We have a flame layer. Now with the flame, I can do the same thing as before. I can just go ahead and I can create, if I wish, a color flats layer for it. I could also just do a matte. So we'll tap on the flame here, and you'll see this option to matte small gaps. If I tap on that, it just isolates the flame like that, and now it's created a matte behind that line art. I can simply tap to fill with color. So if I want to grab a nice orange for this flame color, I can bring my color palette back. Here it is. I'll just pop that up to the top there. And you can see that this brown kind of color I have here is close to an orange. So what I'll do is take that color and just push the saturation like this. And then with my matte layer, I'll just go ahead and tap to fill. Okay, just like that. And if I wanted to, I could then go ahead and make selections and do some more of that with the yellow, etc. But I could also, like I said before, turn this into a color flats situation as well. And because I have that flame on a separate layer, that's no problem. I'll hide the matte here for a moment, and I'll just go to color flats mode. And everything gets its own separate color block. Don't worry. All I have to do is, if I wanted to get rid of this area right here, I could simply take my magic wand tool, make sure that I have contiguous turned on, and then go ahead and select that area of that layer and just hit delete like so. And now I'm left with just the areas I want to color. Very easy. I could delete this as well. I think that makes a bit of a more interesting shape there. Oh, yeah, I like that better. And then just as before, I can go ahead and grab my colors, and I can start tapping away to fill. So we can make all these orange, and we can make these yellow in just a few taps like that. If we want to, we can also do the color fill expand as before. It's not really necessary here. There we go, bring that back. And then we can come over here to bring back our hero, bring back our flats. Now we have the flames. I have one more layer back there. I'm going to go ahead and use that wand to get rid of the areas in the flats that I don't need, just like that. And we have our little background layer here. So once again, I'll just slide my palette over here. And then again, as before, if I want to just use the matte because it's one separate area, it's very simple to do that. I just tap on the background layer right here. This is where I have the line art there. And I'm going to say matte small gaps. It's going to immediately fill that whole area. You can see down here. It's already locked my layer transparency. So I go to that color I want again and just hit Option Delete to fill. And I've got that done. And if I want, I can also tap with my paint bucket tool to fill this area like that. Very simple to do that. All right, so let's hide our palette, and there's our image. Now, once we have this image colored in, what we can very simply do is we can start to experiment with other options for cooling it down, warming it up, all kinds of things like this. And so what I like to do is this. I just go ahead and I create a snapshot of the entire image. And to do that, you just come over to Snapshot Layer and tap that once. And what it does here at the very top of your image is it creates a snapshot of all your layers at once. And now you're not doing anything destructive. Again, you've still got your layer stack all intact, but you can start to play around with some other ideas. So one thing you could do is you could try cooling it down. So just tap that a few times. Try a different palette like that. And you'll see what that does is it creates some adjustment layers for me. Now I can go ahead and select those and group them together if I want. And that's one way to look at my cool options. I can tap on the snapshot again, and I can try warming it up. Just tap that a few times. There's a nice palette as well. Grab all those together and group them. There we go. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is you can create a thumbnail of your image. So if you're working on a bigger piece and you want to see how things are progressing, you can just tap on thumbnail options. We have 3 of them. A simple color thumb, which looks like this, and that'll show me all my values and all my colors in a really simplified format like that. Now for a small image like this, you can see that it's really not that necessary, but it's cool that I can get a simplified look at everything and get an idea of my composition, my shapes, and my darks and lights really quickly. Delete that, and then another thing you can do is you can come and do a notan value with 3 values, black, gray, and white, or just 2 values, black and white. So if we want to try that, we can get a look at what our darks and lights look like right here. Okay, everything's pretty light around this image, as you can see. And we can also try a 3 value like this. And once again, you can see everything pushing pretty far to the light side with a few darks there, but not much. All right. But if you have a more rich, complex image, and I can show an example of that in just a moment, you'll be able to get a really nice thumbnail and just see how things are progressing. Okay, a quick look at the thumbnails, and this image is a lot more rich and full of interesting stuff going on. It's also much larger. Let's take a look at the thumbnails. If I do a simple color thumb, you can see what that does. Generates a perfect little thumbnail right here. I can slide that up to the corner. And what I love about it is that it just takes everything and pares it down to these really simple darks and lights and just a few colors. Gives you a really good read on how everything is going to look in your image. All right, let's hide that for a moment and try the notan. So here's the 3 value thumb. Very nice. You're getting your whites, your blacks, and your grays right there. Excellent way to break things down and see how you're doing with your values. Now let's take a look at the 2 value notan. We just tap on notan 2 value thumb, and there you're going to see just black and white. Very nice. All right, that's good for compositional stuff. Really gives you an idea of the balance of your darks and lights. And these are really easy. You just tap on one and you get what you need. All right, so you've seen snapshot layer. You've seen the idea of doing the palettes. So while I've got color here, I'm just going to go ahead and create a few more palettes so you can see what they look like. We have a simple palette that looks like this. And we have another right here. Very nice. And we have this one. We also have a complementary palette right there. We have an analogous palette, and you've seen the Kyle palette right there. And then you have the Kyle palette big right there. Gives you a bunch more colors as well. And these are all the colors that you can generate from just your foreground color right there. Pretty nice. Now, any palette that you have or any image that you have, you can make print friendly right away. So I'll just go ahead and hide everything I've got right here for a moment. And let's just say I have this palette all by itself, and maybe it has a few colors in it that are not print friendly. If I were to take my eyedropper tool and select this color, for example, you look over here and see there's a little warning telling you that this is going to look fine on screen, but for print, probably not so great. Don't worry, just tap on Print Friendly Palette right here. Every single color automatically will change to colors that are going to be printed fine. And they're going to be as close as possible to what you originally chose. So if I tap right here, for example, again, you'll see now everything is safe. And anywhere else I go, we're in good condition. So that's how you make a print-friendly palette. But you can also do this with an entire image if you wish. We'll bring it back here and we'll take a look at our image. And when we look at that, we can tap on this right here, our snapshot, and we can just say print-friendly palette. And you'll notice it made a few small changes just to make sure that everything in this image will now print safely. All right, and you can see that creates a separate layer once again so that we're working non-destructively. Well, what else can we do? You can check your values. All right, so let's bring our image back. Go ahead and tap check your values, and automatically it's going to create a layer you can toggle on and off. Right here it says check values toggle, and this will constantly be up there ready for you to just turn it on and off to check and see the value structure in your illustration right there. You can also add noise, so you just tap noise finish, and you'll see if I zoom in that creates a little bit of noise. If you want more noise, just tap it again. You tap that several times and that's going to give you a nice little bit of noise, which is always a nice sort of finishing touch when you're done with an illustration and don't want it to look too flat. Okay, group those together and get rid of those. Other options you have, you can do a vignette, 100 pixel, 200, or 300. Here's a simple 100 pixel vignette. You get a look at that. And you also have the option to decrease saturation or increase saturation. In order to do that, make sure you are on a layer that is visible. I prefer to use a snapshot for the entire image myself, or if you have a flattened image, that works fine too. So here I've got a snapshot. It's the print-friendly version. Either one would be fine. I tap on print-friendly, and then I simply tap right here on decrease saturation. And you'll notice what that does. I can tap it again and decrease it even more. Another option, of course, is to increase saturation. So we can go that way as well. And that's just creating layers above. Once again, these are not destructive layers, and they'll be labeled as such, increase or decrease. And if you wish, you can do a soft focus finish. So I can tap on soft focus finish, and that will do this right here. Give me a nice soft focus for the image. You can always get rid of that as well. Everything, again, is completely adjustable. And you can push the contrast too. If you push the contrast, your darks will get darker, your lights will get lighter, right? So we can try that. We'll come back to our snapshot and try pushing the contrast a few times. You can see what that does. So that pretty much covers all of the actions that you have available to you, except for one very nice one, and that is scanned line art. Now this one I'm really happy with. If you've ever scanned pencil drawing or inks and it's just not quite dark enough, or it's a little dirty, or the paper's a little gray, and you have all this cleanup to do, what you can do now is you can go ahead and use this scanned line art action with one tap. It'll clean up that art and it will create aliased line art for you. And I'll show you an example of that right now. Okay, well here we see a page from Peter Hahn's phenomenal drawing book, The Dynamic Bible. It's part 1 of a series. Highly recommend you get this book if you want to learn more about drawing and about understanding the three-dimensional nature of the thing that you're drawing and break things down to simple shapes, simple geometry, and sort of build on that foundation. I'm going to put a link to that book in the description for the video. So anyway, I've got this scanned page from that book. Now let's look at this. You'll notice there's some noise in there. Obviously not great. This is just a JPEG. The line is sometimes darker, sometimes lighter, right? Depending on where the scan didn't get it quite perfect. You can see right there, not so great. What I want is for this to be just clean black line art on its own layer. So look how easy this is. Just tap scanned line art one time. And voila, this has created a separate layer right here. It says aliased line art. So let's go ahead and hide our background and look at this. 100% black, no anti-aliasing. See that? And it's as simple as that. Now I'll zoom out for a moment and I'll go ahead and I'll put a little color behind this, and that makes it look better. And we can now zoom in. I'll go to 100% and you can see how crisp that is. So that is all aliased, nice and clean. And the great thing about this too is, of course, if you wanted to do this, you could increase the line weight for that. All right. And then under that heavy line, if you want to, go ahead and try and do something like matte small gaps. So if we do matte small gaps, look what happens. Just mattes all that, right? It missed this little guy, and that's only because there's a gap right there. You could always fill in that gap with one little notch, same here. and then try that matte again, and it'll nail it. Here I've just brought back that original alias line, got rid of, here's that heavy line again, but don't forget the original line is still there, not destructive. I think it's funny that it got some of these letter forms as well. So that means the matte works quite nicely. A look at these bonus Manga BG actions. Okay, these are for making comics backgrounds really fast. Sometimes, you know, with comics, you don't want to draw the entire background. It's easier to just have a little image hanging out. I see this a lot with various manga. So I thought it'd be fun to just have an action to do that for you. So we'll look at 3 different images. They all have different amounts of contrast and detail. Here's one, and it's important to remember that this action works best for images that are not necessarily large, but not low resolution. So the image size, for example, here is about 2500 by 3700, okay? So that's kind of a good range. Anywhere between maybe like 18 to 2000 pixels and up, you're going to get some really good results. And all you do is you tap on Manga BG1 right here, and it's going to create this. I'll hide the original. This is the result. I'll zoom in so you can see what this does. It gives you an aliased and halftone line drawing, basically. Okay, I'll zoom out for a moment. And then you have options here. What you can do is you could, if you wanted to, create a layer underneath it and just like throw in some color and start playing around with how you want that to look, right? So this is all me just messing around here, but you know, you might want to just have a sort of a sky kind of a deal, something like this, and maybe like have the buildings be another color. Up to you. This is obviously, you know, completely transparent. There's no white background. It's just the black line art. All right, so you can play around and do what you want with that. But another thing you can do is this. After you've made that first background, you go back to your original image, okay, and then tap on Manga BG2. All right, and that's going to create a different result here. And what I like to do is I combine these two. So you put the first one over the second one, and then what you get is this perfect drawing where you have all the line work and you have the tone that's flat and you get the halftones on top of it. So it's a really nice grayscale drawing. And remember, it's still transparent. So if I turn this back on, you'll see that we still have our colors there. And I'm noticing now we got some lights. So, you know, I could just do this, and I could use that same yellow color there and continue to color it however I want on a separate layer. And that's the result. That's what you get. So let's just try another one. We'll bounce over to this image, for example. So again, I just hit Manga BG1. Okay, this is the result that I'm going to get. I'll hide this. This is a smaller image. You see the result is that you get larger halftone dots. Okay, and that could be really desirable for what you want. And then again, if we go back to the original and we hit Manga BG2, we get that gray tone underneath, and we combine the two for this result right here. Really nice. All right, let's take a look at one more. Here's a different image right here. And again, Manga BG1. There we go. That's the result of that. That's pretty nice as is. And as before, halftones and just lines. It's aliased and again, transparent in all the white areas, you know, so you can throw some color in back there. Go back to your original image and hit Manga BG2, and you're going to get those tones in place. And that's the result of combining the two right there. All right, and let's conclude with just looking at the last two options, the Manga BG lines aliased and lines anti-aliased, and then see how we can combine all of these together, okay? Here we go. So we've got this interior space, and let's first just go ahead and do our standard Manga BG1. Just tap on that, and this is what we get. We get the halftones, and they're aliased. Okay, very nice. We'll hide that for a moment. We'll come in here. We'll do the Manga BG2. And this is what we get from that, okay? And as usual, if you want, you can combine the two, and that looks nice. But we could also do this. You could knock the second one back to 50%, so it's more about the lines, and the halftones get knocked back a little bit. We can also do this. Let's hide these for a moment and come back and do Manga BG lines aliased. I'll hide that. Now you just have the aliased line work, and it's very fine. You'll notice how thin that line work is. And don't forget that we have lots of options here. First and foremost, if we want to, we can take that line work and we can increase the line weight. So we can do this, and then we have some thicker lines there. If we don't like that, we go back to the original and we can combine it with the Manga BG1. That's kind of cool. Or sorry, the second one. And then here's the original. So now we've got the line work combined with other line work and halftones from the first pass right there. But we also have this option here where we can use Manga BG lines anti-aliased. So if I tap on that one, these lines are no longer the aliased lines. Okay, these are anti-aliased lines. And if you want to, again, you could combine these with the Manga BG. Okay, that could be kind of nice. You could do the comics BG like this and knock this back to 50% and combine the two like that. So now my manga lines are 100 and my comics BG copy here is 50. All right, so you're getting the picture here. You're starting to figure out ways to combine all these together to get exactly the effect you want. Just the line work alone, you can take those lines, you can make them heavier, you can increase the line weight. Remember that? Okay, you can also decrease the line weight if you wish for it to be even finer. Just do decrease line weight and take a look at that. Combine that with your comics BG copy, all right, or with your manga BG. All right, now we're combining everything together. So many different options. So what's cool about this is you can just mix and match and do whatever suits the specific need that you have for your art. And that really rounds everything out nicely, and there you go. Okay, thanks for watching, and thanks again for purchasing these. Hope they help you a lot, and I hope you enjoy them. Take care.